r/rules horror. Posted by u/Nigjtfallexe. I started working as a nighttime mall security guard. I found a weird list of rules. I started working as a nighttime mall security guard. I found a strange list of rules. Let me start by saying I was always a big guy. I reached puberty very early and was a tall muscular dude. So, it made sense that I had picked up a career in security. I was getting desperate for money, and this mall was as old as they could come. Built in the 30s, and it had been rebuilt multiple times. It had just been rebuilt for the 4th time, and they put up a help wanted sign for nighttime security positions. I didn't have any family that I needed to care for, so I didn't mind working a night shift. I got into my car and drove over to the mall, which was called Nigjtfallexe, named after the county it was built in. It was around 9 p.m., after the mall had closed. The ad said to prepare to work the same day you apply, so that's why I came so late. I went to the front door and arrived at the same time as another person who wanted a security position. We struggled to make conversation as we were both introverted, I suppose. But his name was Todd and we became friends in a small amount of time. The boss arrived and let us in shortly after and led us into his office. He gave us a short interview separately and said we both made the cut, and we could start working today. He provided us uniforms and told us to get changed and walk back to his office. He left the men's room unlocked. On my way to the men's room I could have sworn I saw my father, but I guess it was the lack of sleep from gaming all night last night. I went back a few minutes after Todd, and the boss handed me an employee guidebook. He decided to give me a 9mm pistol, due to the fact I was going to be a police officer. I went through training but opted out last minute. I put the holster on my pants and followed the boss as he led us to the office. He seemed panicked and rushed us in and wished us good luck and said he'd be leaving now. I looked at Todd and we both agreed on reading the guidebook now rather than later. After flipping through stuff about burglaries and security camera usage, we came across a page that was labeled as very important and required to read. I skimmed over it and it looked like a list of rules to follow. Finally, I thought, having been looking for this particular page for the past 10 minutes. I started to read the rule set after telling Todd to focus as get off his phone. Hello new employees. Welcome to your new position in mall security here at Nigjtfallexe. Here are a list of rules and a few minor inconveniences to be aware of and address. Please make sure you follow all of the rules. I scoffed at the fact they said it was a new security position, like I hadn't had 100 jobs like this before. Rule 1. Please make regular sweeps of the premises every 2 hours. Sometimes they get inside the premises. Rule 2. If you see someone you recognize inside of the building, you have about 1 hour to get rid of it before it lets the rest of them in. They are near and waiting for approval from their intruder to enter the building. 2a. They will slaughter you if they come into contact with you. Make sure you slaughter them first. Rule 3. You will hear screams sometime throughout the night. Just ignore them and don't leave the office within the next 30 minutes. They are hungry. Rule 4. Please shoot any customers you see wandering the mall as if they were shopping. They aren't real humans and are trying to unlock the doors. Rule 5. There are pianos in the mall. If you hear them go play by themselves, calmly walk to the piano and close it. If it plays for too long, they take it as an invitation to come inside and your safety is compromised. Rule 6. Please do not look at any writing in ancient symbols. They wrote it to communicate and you'll go insane trying to comprehend it, and you will need to be terminated. Rule 7. Do not tell anyone about what happens in this mall after hours. They don't like to be acknowledged and will hunt you down. Rule 8. Don't listen to the faceless children that come by your office looking for their parents. It wants to lure you to the abyssal zone. 8a. If you end up in the abyssal zone, we cannot save you. That is their domain and you will not come out human. Rule 9. If there is a third security guard, please calmly rip his throat out. He is a shapeshifter looking for a right opportunity and will scream alerting them. Rule 10. Make sure everything stays where it is supposed to. If not, they will take it as an opportunity to get close to you. 10a. If something is out of order, there will be customers that will alert you to follow them. There was item out of place. Do not follow them. Instead, exit the office and shine the ultra-bright flashlight we assigned you in their eyes. It will blind them temporarily and allow you to put the item in its correct spot. Is this a joke? I said out loud. Todd was also confused about the rules, until a bang came from the door. Todd went outside the office to tell the person to leave. I could hear him yelling at the person. I watched from the camera and I saw the person morph into an unrecognizable monster and eat Todd's torso. That was an hour ago and I am now surrounded by them. They are banging at the door and I don't know how I'm going to escape. Please don't come to Nigjtfallexe, and please help. I'm running low on food and I don't know what to do. Next story of THS video. Posted by you/Fido, the doggy. Never leave your shoes outside. One hot summer afternoon I was browsing online when I saw an ad asking someone to sit their house for a week in a nearby town. I was broke, the pay was nice, $1,000 for a week. And I had nothing to do, so why not? The next day I was at the house. I didn't get to meet the owner, instead there was an old lady waiting for me next door to hand over the keys. I was laying at the sofa wasting my time for an easy grand when I noticed a paper on the drawer next to me. It was a note left by the owner. I will be out of town for the next a week, so just a few reminders. The people in the neighborhood aren't really the nicest, so don't leave your shoes outside. Haha. And never mention your name to anyone. Close all the doors and windows before the sun sets. You're free to take what you want from the fridge, and if you are going to cook something, please bring some to Mrs. Graziella, the old lady next door. She lives alone and her children rarely visit her, so it would be nice if you could greet her every now and then. And don't forget to water the roses. Well, I was feeling hungry and shameless, so I thought of rummaging through the fridge first. To my surprise, it was full of expensive stuff my broke self could never buy. It was the owner's mistake to tell me to take what I want. As I was having a feast, I remembered about the old lady. I kinda felt bad reading about her, so I went to bring her some leftovers. Well, I heated it in the microwave first so she wouldn't notice. Mrs. Graziella was really nice, she even gave me half of the apple bread that she baked. She then told me a lengthy story about her wonderful children and her late husband, which I forgot right after I stepped out of her house. Ah. Sorry. What was your name again, dear? She asked. Jenny. I answered. She was really nice and told me to call on her whenever I needed some help. Anyway, it got pretty late and I remembered that I still had to water the roses. They were about to bloom, so it would be a shame if they wither. It was getting dark outside and I didn't notice that I was stepping on the mud. My shoes was covered in mud, so I left them outside and wore the pair of slippers near the front door. The night came and it was kinda hot. I was on the sofa watching a movie on their huge flat-screen TV. The noise of air conditioner was bothering me, so I turned it off and opened the windows in the living room instead. I realized I was disregarding the rules, but they were caged windows, so it's not like anyone could enter through it. It was past midnight. I was still on the sofa half asleep with the TV on when I thought I heard some noises behind me. I didn't thought much of it until I heard my name, Jenny, Jenny. I turned back and to my horror saw a woman staring right at me, smiling, as she's squirming her way through the window. I screamed in shock and the woman began laughing maniacally. Jenny. Jenny. I froze. I couldn't comprehend what I was seeing. I could hear her bones crack painfully as she twisted and contorted her body to force her way inside, and somehow she was getting in. It was so unnatural that the very sight of it almost made me puke. I yelled at her to get out, but she just kept laughing. My heart began pounding and my senses screamed at me, do something. Whatever that thing was, I couldn't let it in. So I got up, grabbed the window and slammed it at her face. Jenny. Jenny. She screamed and I yelled at her to get out. I slammed it at her face over and over again until she finally got out. I rushed to close both the windows as she screamed loudly. Jenny, I. Open the door. The woman or whatever it was pounded on the door and it shook violently. I pushed against it thinking it would break. But it didn't, and then the noises stopped. I looked through the peephole and she was gone. It was over, so rushed to the sofa and grabbed my phone to call the cops, but all of a sudden, I couldn't feel my body. I tried to move but I couldn't, then my body turned around and slowly walked towards the door, and there she was, smiling outside the window while cradling my shoes. Jenny. Come here, Jenny. Jenny. I cried as I tried to force myself to turn away from the door, but I couldn't. Then, I watched myself turn the keys. Click, I opened the door and stepped outside. Jenny. Jenny. The strange, deformed being smiled at me, but her eyes, she glared at me with the most spiteful eyes I had ever seen. Jenny. Jenny. I begged her to stop and to just let me go, but she just kept repeating my name and I kept walking towards her. Come here, Jenny. 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 I was certain that I was going to die, and in my last desperate attempt to survive I cried, Mrs. Graziella. Help. Help. Please. Suddenly Mrs. Graziella's porch light turned on and the old lady got out of her house. No. Stay back. I warned her, but then I noticed, the thing was gone. I looked around and she was gone. What's the matter, dear? Mrs. Graziella asked. I dropped on my knees and at that point I broke down and began sobbing uncontrollably. Mrs. Graziella rushed to help me back up. I spent the next few nights at Mrs. Graziella's house and before I knew it a whole week had passed. The owner returned and I got paid. I didn't bother to discuss the events with her and was eager to leave. But as I walked out of her house, she suddenly asked, "You didn't mention your name to anyone, didn't you?" I paused, not knowing how to respond, and for a few moments there was complete silence. "Nothing, forget I asked," she chuckled awkwardly. I left her house in a hurry and tried to forget about what happened. But her question remained in my mind. Then that very same night, I heard it once again: "Jenny. Jenny. Jenny." Thankfully, I brought my shoes in my bedroom.